He rushed home to Robyn. He needed to check in on, I don't know, the kids, her feelings about my labor.
Oh my gosh, Kody, it's your 13th child on the 13th day. What was your
We have to induce.
Your 13th biological child on the 13th day. Holy cow.
We should. Serious.
Okay.
Let's see what the doctor says.
Okay. Kody and Robyn, they got engaged and everything, and I thought, oh, that's nice. They're engaged now, so now it's more official. Like a month later, I found out that Kody sealed the engagement with a kiss, and I freaked.
Hi besties, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. Christine Brown posted on her Instagram a short clip of her reading her new book. And in it, there appears to be a chapter about giving birth to Truly and dragging Kody for abandoning her during her labor to go home. For what reason, we'll never know. And during the episode of the first season, when Christine gave birth to Truly, Kody not only went home, he said he needed to quote unquote change, but the first place he went was to Robyn's house, where he didn't really need to go. There was no reason for him to be there. He didn't live with Robyn at that time. He wasn't married to Robyn at that time. There was kids there, but he wasn't bringing any of the kids to the hospital. It seemed odd that he would just show up at Robyn's, but he did. And not only did he do that, but while Christine was in labor, Kody also had Robyn walk outside with him and he kissed her. And he said, well, I don't want to have the camera crews on me so they see that I'm kissing my girlfriend when my wife is in labor. So you were okay doing it, you just wanted to hide it. And this has been something that has lived on in infamy in the world of sister wives, was Kody's relationship with Robyn and how he abandoned Christine when she was pregnant with Truly. This also could parlay her into a wider conversation, in my opinion, about Kody basically just abandoning not only her, but Truly. Kody had a relationship with the other children, at least to a degree, but when Robyn came into the picture, he had a newborn baby. And while he had a newborn baby, Kody decided to go on a honeymoon, get married, and he was gone for 11 days. 11 days away from his wife that just had a baby. And on the show, quite frequently, they would talk about how Kody would do things like spend time with the wife and be with the wife that had the child in order to help her with the newborn. And the other wives were apparently okay with it. That's what they always said on the show, but apparently not. And Christine's conversation around the birth is probably just the beginning of a long conversation about Kody constantly picking Robyn and the inequity of being in a relationship with Robyn and also her being put out to pasture. She recently shared that she got her book. This is the second time she's seen her book and posted videos of her looking at her book. And she showed photographs that are inside of the book. And there was a little bit where I could read what it was talking about. And it appears to be a chapter where they talk about the legalization or the attempted legalization of polygamy. She references that they filed a lawsuit against the state of Utah, that the lawsuit was they originally won, and then it was overturned on appeal, and then the Supreme Court declined to take on the case. And she discussed that the definition was changed for a very brief moment in time, but even with those changes, she was never able to become a legal wife. And I don't know if the book is going to dive into perhaps some of the regret she has around advocating for the legalization of polygamy, whether or not she has regrets about, going to the Capitol on literally standing on the steps and talking about how polygamy isn't like Warren Jeffs, and it's everyone's happy and they're all consenting, and using her voice in such a public way when there was all this abuse that was happening off the show that was happening in Utah, and there was also abuse that the church that this family was not talking about that was occurring within their own church. I'll be interested to see if she discusses in any capacity the death of her grandfather, Rulin. Um, he's an interesting story because he took over the sex in the 1950s following the death of another leader. And when he took over, they split because the group that was then went on to be led by in the FLDS, Leroy Johnson, he didn't think that Rulin should be the next in line. He believed he should. And so there was a split at that point, and so that's when the FLDS became the FLDS, which they're all fundamentalists, and then the All Red group became the Apostolic United Brethren. And his takeover of the sect created a ton of hostility that boiled up to the ultimate murder of him in the 1970s by a wife of Ervil LeBaron. And I don't know if she's going to touch on the fact that Ervil LeBaron is also her uncle, her great uncle. So Ervil and his wives, he was a radical, very radical, and he had this belief that it was his job to fulfill, the role of being the one mighty and strong. And his goal was that anyone that was claiming to be a prophet that was not him was doing so falsely, and they needed to be atoned for what they were doing, for the harm that they were causing, for the lies that they were perpetrating. And so his vendetta was that these people are not the prophet. I am the prophet. I am the man. He wanted the followers that Rulin had. He wanted the followers that the FLDS had, and he was going to go after anyone that stood in his way. So that's a topic that they've never discussed on the show, and I'll be interested to see if that's a conversation here, because to really understand Christine and who she is and what she is, it would be almost irresponsible to not speak about the murder of Rulin, because that ultimately is what created this culture that became so fearful of the outside. I mean, they were fearful before, but it for sure got escalated when he was killed, because they didn't only have to fear outsiders in the government like police, but they also had to fear other groups that might come after them, that might try to take their leaders, that might try to harm people inside of their group. It wasn't just, okay, the government doesn't want us to do this, but it's other groups don't want us to do this. And that created a lot more rules and a lot more isolation and a lot more control within this group. And Christine was a very young girl when this happened. And I would assume that given her dad's proximity to Rulin, Rex was one of the first born from the second wife of Rulin. And so there was 3 kids born with that wife, and Rex was someone that was close to his father. So that would have been a death that would have permeated her childhood, and a crime that would have impacted her life. So I'll be interested to see if she covers that. It appears that there's conversation about the legalization or the potential legalization of polygamy, and I'm wondering if her opinion has changed now about what they did to advocate for it being no longer what they call a felony, and that's extremely misleading. It's no longer a felony for a man to have more than one wife in the state of Utah, but it's still a felony if he marries underage wives, if he commits fraud, if other crimes are found as a part of, like, if there's other crimes associated with polygamy, like the child marriages, forced marriages, arranged marriages, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, fraud, bankruptcy fraud, welfare fraud, all of the different crimes that can be committed, tax evasion. So it's still a felony for all the other crimes that are a part of it. So it's only not a felony if you're simply just married, quote unquote, to multiple women and don't commit any other crimes. But the criminal aspect of polygamy and the crimes that occur go hand in hand with it. So it's almost impossible to take polygamy out of it and say, well, it's only if, as long as we're married, it's totally fine. But the crimes are like synonymous because it's just a part of their culture. And it's not as prevalent in her group in the AUB where they would marry children, but they do groom little girls to become wives even today in that group. And they do participate in trafficking, and they've had a long history of leaders that have gotten in trouble for doing things to their daughters and to setting up their daughters with men that are old. So I wonder if she has any regrets about using her voice in that way. And I wonder if now that she wants people to leave, how it's going to be viewed by the people that she sort of dismissed that were advocating for stronger laws to protect women. Do you see what I'm saying? So on the one hand, Christine is going to write this book and she's going to drag Kody to filth and she's going to call Kody out for mistreating her, which I know that fans are going to love, but I just wonder if there's going to be an acknowledgement in any capacity about, there was a lot of women that were out there fighting for you and for your freedom, and you guys stood against those victims and downplayed their stories, and you dismissed their stories, and you basically misled the public about the crimes occurring within your own church. And all of this enabled more of a positive public perception in Utah. And if you talk to people that are in Utah, they say that this decriminalization has not helped at all. They will say that on the one hand, yes, women might be able to come forward now and report abuse, but inherently within this culture, women are not taught to go to police anyway. So it's not like changed anything in that regard. But on the other hand, it's made men more emboldened to do their crimes out in public, becoming more brazen. An example of that would have been Samuel Bateman, who was recently arrested because he had like 27 wives and like 10 of them were under the age of 12 or 15. And one of them was 10. There's been cases now of more and more men in Utah behaving more atrociously, feeling more emboldened, like now they're not going to come after me because it's a criminal infraction. And one thing that they don't talk about is when the law got overturned, they had set up reparations for the victims of polygamy because of the state not protecting them. And so a victim that suffered in the hands of an abuser and was trafficked or sex trafficked or whatever, they could go to the state of Utah and get assistance and victims reparations, a payment from the state for basically not protecting them, not stepping in, not prosecuting. And so it was like one of the first times that victims of these cults had the government acknowledging their failures. And then when the law changed, that went away. And so many women who could leave and get that money no longer have access to that now. And it's really sad. I think the state of Utah really failed in that regard. And I hope that in time it'll be addressed by Christine. It's not her fault. I mean, she was a part of the cult. She was a part of the, system. But sometimes like acknowledgement of it can go a long way with the people that feel like the show harmed them and harmed their safety by making it legal. So the stuff about Robyn, the stuff about Kody, I'm sure that's going to get people to talk. She might expose things that were happening in the family that might get people interested. And then I really do wonder if she's going to start talking about, how she was used. And I think another way that she could frame this is that she was being used by the cult to pitch their narrative. And she was pitching the narrative even though she didn't believe in it. And she's admitted that. And it's hard sometimes to admit that you were used and you were manipulated. But it's also like so important that if you were and you did that you apologize. That's my opinion. I'll be interested to see what stories are in there that we haven't heard. And it's interesting that she's going to call out Kody about what happened at the birth And we'll see what else comes up. Let me know what your thoughts are about all of this in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And please click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.